Hi and welcome to Investing 4.0 Visionary Investing in Future Trends. Hope you don't mind that you actually see the microphone here. I try to improve my sound quality overall, so let me know down in the comments below if the sound is actually better that way. Today we'll analyze Palantir, an American company that is focused on data mining and data analytics. And if you're new to my channel, a big welcome from my side. Investing 4.0 stands for neutral, non-hyped, and structured content to make you a smarter and more successful investor. My company or stock analysis always focus on the three essential things that you need to know to analyze a company, and that includes a closer look at the history, the business model, and of course the financial statement. So if you like this video, I'd love to see you join my team. A quick disclaimer before we start, I currently hold 10 shares and in my portfolio video, some of you might wonder, I mentioned that I own 55 shares, so an update is coming at the end of this video. Since I own a small amount of shares, I might be biased with my assessment here, but as promised, as always, I will try to give you a most neutral assessment. Obviously, this is no investment advice and is for entertainment and informational purposes only. So in the end, you decide what to do with your money and you're responsible for the outcome. But now let's begin and take a look at Palantir. Alright, so as always, let's start with a brief overview about Palantir before we look at the history. Palantir has a current market cap of about 44 billion US dollars. The stock price is around 23, 24 US dollars right now. It was up and now fell down a little bit. So it's highly volatile. And the year-to-date revenue is about 707 million US dollars. Alex Karp is the current CEO of Palantir and actually was one of the original founders, so he's with the company since almost 17 years now. Looking at the history, Palantir was founded 17 years ago, as mentioned, by Peter Thiel, and some of his friends, as mentioned, Alex Karp was one of them. And the original SEC filing was actually initiated in 2003, but the corporation actually started the operations in 2004. Now, Peter Thiel is one of the original founders of PayPal, and he was also one of the earliest investors of Facebook. And he decided basically to found Palantir due to the two following reasons. The first one was the 9/11 attacks, and Peter had the goal of defending the American interests. At the same time, which is the second reason, PayPal experienced an increase in cyber fraud cases. So Peter Thiel founded Palantir to basically fight real crime as well as cyber crime, and later extended the business model to general data analytics. The name Palantir actually comes from the Lord of the Rings, where a Palantir is a magical or crystal ball that allows you to see what is going on in Middle-earth and to communicate with each other. To let you know upfront, Palantir tries to be very secretive about their company in general, and that even includes their own history. On the Palantir website, there is little to no information, but here's what I found out. Palantir's product names actually changed over time, so it makes sense to take a final look at the final names of their products later on. And as they did not share a historic overview as mentioned, I will mostly focus on their accomplishments during the history part. As I mentioned, Palantir was founded in 2004, let's say, and basically started early operations. And then in 2009 and 2010, Palantir's software was actually used to uncover GhostNet and Shadow Network. And the GhostNet was a China-based cyber espionage network targeting more than 1,000 computers in over 100 countries, for example, including the Dalai Lama's office or a NATO computer and various national embassies. The Shadow Network, the second one that Palantir Software discovered, was also a China-based hacker network and hacked into, for example, the Indian security and defense system. On June 18th of 2010, actually one thing that is very important or might be very important for Palantir right now is that Joe Biden held a press conference in the White House, at that time being a vice president, announcing the success of fighting fraud in the stimulus by the Recovery, Accountability and Transparency Board. So Biden credited the success of the software, namely Palantir software, being deployed by the federal government. He announced that the capability will be deployed to other government agencies, and that started with Medicare and Medicaid. So actually back then, Palantir was also very active within the White House or the government at that time. Then from 2013 to 2016, Palantir could win major customers within the government like the FBI, the NSA, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and many, many more, and could therefore secure their additional funding. In September 2013, Palantir disclosed over $196 million in funding according to a US Securities and Exchange Commission filing. It was estimated that the company would likely close almost $1 billion in contracts in 2014 alone. As of December 2014, though, Peter Thiel was one of the largest shareholders, which I think is actually a good thing that the founder, still 10 years later, is one of the biggest shareholders. At that time, Palantir had a valuation of about 15 billion US dollars. This year, Palantir was one of 4 large tech companies that started working with the NHS, National Health Service, on supporting COVID-19 efforts through the provision of software. The latest update I have for you, obviously, is the IPO that was happening on September 30th this year. And yeah, that had an initial valuation of 22 billion US dollars. So that's it about the history part, or about the accomplishments. As mentioned, there is not much information about the history compared to other companies. So now the question is, what does Palantir actually do? So let's take a look at the business model here. And to put it in simple terms, they are mining and analyzing data. And that is like pictures, spreadsheets, geographical data, and much more. So it's basically a combination of a big tech company that is focused on software and a consulting firm with a focus on data analytics. The knowledge that Peter Thiel gained during his years with PayPal actually helps him right now, and Palantir is known for its capabilities in pointing out inconsistencies in data patterns and data pattern analysis in general. Its business model is basically split into 2 different branches, so let's take a look here real quick. The first one is the government sector with about 54% of the revenue, and then the second one is the commercial sector with about 46% of the revenue. As mentioned, Palantir works with US government agencies like the CIA, the FBI, NSA, the Department of Defense, and general law enforcement, and most controversially as well, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, the ICE. The software was actually being credited in finding Osama bin Laden, for example, but the company never confirmed this. One specific example is the predictive policing, which basically means that the software analyzes crime data for like different regions or areas and makes forecasts of where crimes are likely to happen next, and then sends police cars to these destinations to prevent crimes from happening before they actually happened. So due to this software, for example, the burglaries in those areas could be reduced about 20%, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Palantir is operating 3 main programs, or one might say 2+1. So let's take a look here as well. The first one is Gotham, and Gotham is basically focused on the government sector. The second one is Foundry, which is more focused on private or commercial sector. And then we have Apollo, that actually had the initial name of Skylab. And Apollo was marked as a product if you enter the website, but as far as I understand it, I might be wrong here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but in my understanding, it is simply a continuous delivery system that manages and deploys the installations of Gotham and Foundry. So Apollo kind of orchestrates and updates to like configurations and software in the Foundry and Gotham platforms using a microservice architecture. Let's take a look at Foundry and Gotham as well. So Foundry started as a way to enable Palantir's engineers to help more customers finding insights in their data. And Foundry and Gotham actually share crucial Palantir software DNA of secure, auditable, and cross-organization information sharing. And Gotham includes specialized capabilities like network analysis, geospatial analysis, and so on. Now, Palantir Foundry, which is used in the commercial sector, is a platform that reimagines how people actually use data by removing the barriers between back-end data management and front-end data analysis. It therefore enables users with varying technical ability and deep subject matter expertise to work meaningfully with the data. On the other hand, Gotham can be seen as a big data analytics software, and the platform helps organizations combine, manage, protect, and analyze large chunks of data. It integrates and transforms data regardless of type or volume into a single coherent data set. As data flows into the platform, it is enriched and mapped into meaningfully defined objects, people, places, things, events, and so on, and the relationships that actually connect them. So it has a set of combined tools designed for like semantic, temporal, geospatial, and full text analysis, which is specifically designed for the government sector. Palantir is, with so many other things, very protective of their products and only shares selected use cases and the exact ways their software operates. I understand that this is necessary looking at their customers. Obviously, the NSA, the FBI wouldn't like sharing those information. But yeah, that makes it really hard for investors that are actually trying to understand their business model and the business model of Palantir in full detail. So that was about the business model. It's mainly about data mining, and they have two different products and one, let's say, software as a service that is integrating those products for two different sectors. So let's take a look at the financial data of Palantir, and they actually recently shared their Q3 numbers. So let's have a quick look at that. In 2019, Palantir reported almost $1 loss per $1 revenue, and looking into this, it is hard to believe that Palantir is still operating after 17 years without being profitable actually. They reported a loss of $588 million for the whole year of 2019, which is actually the same level as 2018, despite a jump of 25% increase in revenue from 18 to 19. Thus, they were actually not able to increase the profit. And the EPS also continues to be negative as well. Peter Thiel, unfortunately, is known for not being a big fan of companies becoming profitable, as he believes that this means that the companies stop reinvesting into themselves. One can argue about that, but that's what his opinion is. He mentioned in an interview that profitability is still nowhere in sight and that Palantir might not become profitable in the future, or that they may not even be able to sustain the revenue growth rate in the future. That is a little bit concerning coming from a founder of a company. However, there's a positive outlook as well. The software Apollo has reduced their margins by providing software as a service instead of operating as a consulting company here, which led to an increase of their margin of about 11%. Unfortunately, since Palantir just had their IPO, there are not enough data for me to run a DCF model, or at least I couldn't find them. And yeah, it would make it hard for me to assess a fair share price. So let's instead have a look on what others have to say here. For example, the researchers from Morningstar give Palantir a fair valuation of $13 per share, which equals 28 billion market cap. And they predict rapidly growing and operating leverage from Palantir in the upcoming years, and that's already priced in the $13 price that they mentioned. This matches what Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, keeps saying, that their company is still 10 years too early and that companies and investors do not fully grasp the potential and importance of data and data analytics. Considering the Joe Biden presidency, Morningstar is expecting a 37% 5-year revenue growth for the government sector and a 31% for the commercial sector. Looking at the assumptions from Morningstar, Palantir's current share price would still be more than 80% higher than the fair evaluation, so it would be overpriced in their perspective right now. Now, a second company here, Citron Research, who are also short selling NEO and putting their price under a lot of pressure recently, also put Palantir on their short selling list with a price target of $20 US. So only $3 something below the current price. They mentioned that Palantir, from their perspective right now, is some kind of casino or like gamble right now. So let's take a look at the opportunities and risks. Palantir is facing a lot of controversies on a political but also on a company level right now. And those controversies include statements from Peter Thiel himself, who is one of the few supporters from the Silicon Valley that are actually supporting President Trump. And they are also being criticized for collaborating with the ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which was very, very controversial even within Palantir itself. And some employees actually decided to leave out of protest. The overall business model is also being criticized a lot because a lot of people see Palantir as one company pushing or enabling and laying the foundation of installing a surveillance state or some kind of big brother system. However, despite all these controversies, I do agree with the statement that Alex Karp made in August 2020, and he said that the engineering elite of the Silicon Valley may know more than most about building software, but they do not know more about how society should be organized and what justice requires. Our company was founded in Silicon Valley, but we seem to share fewer and fewer of those technology sectors' values and commitments. There are also a lot of negative effects of social media and the negative impact on society. So basically he's saying, who are you to judge, right? And he's basically pointing that directly into like the direction of Facebook, Twitter, and so on, who are basically selling all of their data to almost anyone. And no, I'm not trying to take a side here. I just want to give you a neutral overview and stating comments from both sides so you can assess the controversies that you read in the media. Last but not least, a major risk is the overall intransparency, as Palantir is not sharing a lot of information as mentioned. And that makes it really, really hard for investors to get a clear picture on the company. But now let's take a look at the opportunities that are out there. I already mentioned it a few times, but one of the opportunities that might be out there is the upcoming presidency of Joe Biden. As the Democrats are thinking about defunding the police, which basically means that the police will need to look more closely into how and what they spend their money on. And Palantir software has naturally high moat, which basically means that the switching costs for the customers to other providers is pretty high. And at the same time, they do have a software that is also, let's say, comparatively good in pricing, which in the end might lead to an extensive use of Palantir's products in the law enforcement sector. Another opportunity is their growth perspective. Alex Karp keeps saying that they focus on about 6,000 companies with more than 500 million in annual revenue, and currently they only have 125 of those customers. So we do see a huge potential for future growth, and he keeps saying that in 10 years people will actually discover the value of data mining, and data analytics. Let me also explain you how I assess Palantir and what my strategy is or was, and give you a little update about what happened in my portfolio. As stated in the beginning of this video and also in my portfolio video that I posted a few days or weeks ago, I owned 55 shares of Palantir, and I basically bought them right after the IPO. But as the stock price fell sharply during the last days due to the short selling of Citron, my stop loss order kicked in. So I basically secured my gains here, my revenue here, and cashed it out with about 73% return. I decided to reinvest my gains, and despite the intransparency and the controversies that are going on, and will give Palantir a shot in the long run, as I already made my money with them. But I'm not sure if I would actually invest any new money at this point. So I sold, where my stop loss order kicked in. I sold with 70% gain, and I decided to now buy 10 shares, just a small position of Palantir again, and we'll see how this will develop. So I will hold this on a very long term. As a new investor, however, my outlook on Palantir would come down to the following question. Do you see Palantir as a high growth tech company or as a lower margin consulting firm? They currently operate in kind of both sectors with their software, but also with the data analysts that are actually going to those companies and helping them making sense of those data. We do see that they try to go more in the tech direction with the Apollo software, but their business still requires a lot of manual analytics and headcount therefore. Their current evaluation is based on a strong future potential, but to be honest, nobody knows if they can actually make use of this and scale their business model. So after getting a better overview about Palantir's history, the business model, and the basic financial statement, what do you think about Palantir? Are you willing to invest your money into Palantir, or are you standing at the sideline and wait for more information in the future? Let me know down in the comments below. It was a lot of work, but also a lot of fun to analyze Palantir. They didn't really make it easy, but that made it kind of interesting for me. And I hope you appreciate my work. I hope you like the video, and will leave a like in the YouTube algorithm to help me to reach a larger audience. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe now. Please do so in order not to miss any of my future videos. That's it for now. See you next time. I'm out.